Welcome back to ACER Explained. In this series, I'm going through Section 3 of the GAMSAT ACER Practice Test booklet. And in this video, I am going through Unit 13. So that's questions 44 to 48. As usual, I'm going to be identifying prerequisite knowledge that you might need, some reasoning skills that are used, and also some bootcamp resources. So in this unit, we are given a flowchart of how fungi reproduce, and we're shown a tetrad and an octad that are formed from this reproduction. We're given a paragraph that describes this. And so question 44, we're given a particular order for a particular octad. All right, and we're asked which of the following options could be the genotype of the diploid myocyte. Okay, so the diploid myocyte is what actually undergoes meiosis, and then it becomes haploid spores. And those haploid spores are what we see in the octad. Right, so in the octad, it would be A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, just drawing that downwards. And then it switches around. Right? And so these two would come from chromosomes that have AB on them. Same here. These two would come from lowercase a, capital B. And the order of the lowercase a, well, these chromosomes here doesn't really matter because we have these arrows around them that indicate that the orders can be swapped around, right? And so these would come from the diploid bit, so it would be AB and AB, and then that becomes haploid via the second meiotic division. And here it would be this kind of thing. All right. And then so the genotype of the diploid myocyte would be capital A, lowercase b, and lowercase a and capital B. Now, this order is not given to us. So the order of these haploid cells here could be different. But what's important is that we know there's a capital A, we know there's a lowercase b, we know there's a capital B, and we know there's a lowercase a as well. And in our answer options, only one of these actually matches that, and that's the answer A. And so that's how you get to that answer, by figuring out that, well, if you have your offspring or your gametes with, well, in this case it's spores, with a particular kind of allele, then the parents also have to have that allele. And so this would be the correct answer. So you didn't need any prerequisite knowledge here. It was just about pattern recognition. And so the bootcamp resources that can help with this are the acceleration class, Introduction to Reasoning, and on pattern recognition, as well as the reasoning skills course. And then the content in action on genetics could help with just familiarizing yourself with this kind of content. Now, question 45 is asking us about a particular myocyte that is heterozygous for gene A, and it's asking us which of the following octads in the ACER could be possible out of these four here. So we have to start off with our diploid myocyte. And so if it's heterozygous for gene A, let's start by drawing out this diagram. So you'd have, after the chromatid formation, well, heterozygous means essentially you have your one capital allele and one lowercase allele, or you have your different alleles, right? So it's not the same allele, it's different alleles. That's heterozygous. And so your original chromosome would have A and A, right? So you have this is your chromosome here. And then after your chromatid formation, you get capital A, lowercase a. And then you get your first division here, right? So you get your capital A, lowercase a. Then you get your second division. And so these two could swap around. And so therefore, in that scenario, you would get AA up the top and capital A down the bottom, which would then result in kind of the opposite, where the lowercase a's are at the top and the capital A's are at the bottom. And then these two could swap around as well, but that wouldn't change anything because obviously this is capital and this is lowercase and lowercase, so it would be the same exact thing. Then these go off to just form A, lowercase a. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this one will go A, capital A. So this is just mitosis. Then you have lowercase a, and lowercase a, and lowercase a. And the same thing would happen over here. So you'd have lowercase, then capital. And so we have two options for our octads, and those options are represented by option 1 and 2. And so our answer here is A. And so this is something that you can do that in your head, because as soon as you kind of figure out that it's going to look like this, so this step here, as soon as you figure that out, you could get an idea that even if they swap around, you're not going to get any kind of lowercase a happening up here, and the capital A's are all going to happen first and the lowercase a's are all going to happen next, or the opposite way around if you swap these around. So this is something that you could quickly go through in your head as well. So for this one, all you had to know was what heterozygosity means. So you need to know that if this myocyte is heterozygous, what does that mean? It means that it has the capital allele and the lowercase allele. But other than that, it was just pattern recognition and being able to copy that diagram and interpret that diagram. And so the bootcamp resources that you would be helpful here are the reasoning skills course, the acceleration class on introduction to reasoning, as well as on pattern recognition, and the content in action on genetics as well. All right, for this question, we're given some extra information. So we're given figure 2, and this figure shows 2 pairs of homologous chromosomes, and it's basically asking us what the possible genotypes could be for the pre-spores after the first meiotic division. And we're also told that we are not to consider any recombination for questions 44 to 46, so we will not be considering recombination here. And so given that we're not considering recombination, we can eliminate some of these options as well, because what happens during the first meiotic division is that these are essentially randomly organized into different cells. Okay, so these 2 chromosomes are basically copies, the same kind of genes, but just different alleles. They contain the same genes, just a different allele, right? So it started off like this, okay? And then after chromatid formation, because you have DNA replication, it replicates into capital A, and it replicates into lowercase a, lowercase a. And that's the same for B, okay? But B is a completely different chromosome to A. So this chromosome starts off like this, okay? And this is a different chromosome containing different genes to gene A. So after this, we want to get one copy of each of these into the cells, right? So we want one red copy and we want one green copy. And so there's different combinations with which this can happen. So you can have a combination of red and green in the sense that you have capital A plus capital B, right? Because that means you have one red and one green. You could have lowercase a plus capital B. You could have capital A plus lowercase b, and you can have lowercase a plus lowercase b and lowercase b. Now, if recombination were to occur, that would essentially mean that with these homologous chromosomes, you have some crossing over happening. So you could get capital B and lowercase b if these two chunks decided to cross over. And so that's when you would get things like this, right? Here and here and here and here and here. However, we're told not to consider recombination here, so we can automatically eliminate these options. And because we've got these four possible genotypes here, and they match with option A, we can say that option A is our correct answer. So this question, you needed to know a little bit about recombination in genetics, but a lot of it was just pattern recognition and being able to decipher information from two different figures and integrate that information in order to answer the question. And so the bootcamp resources that can help with this are the acceleration class on Introduction to Reasoning and Pattern Recognition, the Reasoning Skills course, as well as the Content in Action series on genetics for some of that prerequisite knowledge. For the next few questions, we're given some information about recombination, and we're also given another flow chart. And it says assume that there's just been a single recombination event for question 47 and 48. So keeping that in mind, let's look at question 47. So we're given the spore order here. And this is the spore order that's shown in our flow chart, so figure 3. And it's asking us which of the following is not another possible spore order for the myocytes that are shown there. So I've drawn out the myocytes that I've shown, and I've drawn out the recombination event as well. And so this is the first stage where you can have some swapping happening. However, because these two are the same, it's not going to make a difference whether they swap or not. So I'm not going to go into that. So let's move on to the next step. So then you get these. Oh, just pretend that is a chromosome. Okay. And so you can have things mixing around here. So then let's look at the order. The order we have right now is this. Now, if we had the first, just this one mixing around, then we would get lowercase a, lowercase a. Then we would get, if we just had the bottom one swapping around, we'd get capital, lowercase, capital. And then finally, if both of them swapped around, we would get this here. All right, and then the final step is basically when it doubles via mitosis. So it would just all become double. I'm not going to draw it all out, but just keep in mind that it would be two of these, and two of these for all of them. So now let's look at our answer options. So we have lowercase a. So we're going to use the process of elimination here. So, yep, we have lowercase a here and lowercase a here, which would then double via the mitosis event. So then this is plausible. And then we have capital A. So that would be capital A here. Then we have lowercase again. So we're looking at this. So that's this answer option. So this is correct. It is a possible spore order. Now let's look at the next one. So we just have A, lowercase a, and capital A. So then looking there, that's this one. So this is a possible sport order. Then looking here, we have lowercase, capital, capital, lowercase. And that corresponds to this one here. So this is a possible sport order. Now this one would be lowercase, lowercase, capital, capital. And this doesn't correspond with any of the sport orders that we've got here, right? So it's not a possible sport order, and so D is your correct answer. For this question, you didn't need any previous knowledge. It was all about pattern recognition and interpreting figures, as well as the process of elimination. So the resources that can help with this are the acceleration class on introduction to reasoning, as well as pattern recognition and visual stimuli, and our reasoning skills course as well. In question 48, we're given a recombination event, and we're being asked which of the following is not a possible sport order that's resulting from that recombination. So I've drawn that recombination event, and now we have to draw out the chromosomes that are going to result from this. And so what we're going to get here is this here. So that's going to be the same. You're just going to have A, B. Then, because these have swapped, you're going to have capital A, lowercase b. Then you're going to have this one here from when they've swapped. So you're going to have lowercase a, capital B. And then you're just going to have this one here, and that is lowercase a, lowercase b. Now from there, what can happen here is that these are going to separate out into A, B, lowercase a, capital B, and lowercase a, lowercase b. All right, so this is the spore order that's possible. And then what you would get from there is essentially the same thing as before, where these just undergo mitosis and double. So I'm not going to draw all of those out, but just know that this happens twice. All right, so this is a possible combination. Now, what could also happen is that these two swap. So instead of getting this order, you could get A, B at the top, and lowercase a, b here. And then you could get A, B capital, and A, B lowercase down the bottom here. Okay, and so there's another point of recombination that can occur here. Not recombination, sorry, it's swapping around. Okay, so from this, you could get this order as well. So just swapping this one. Any combination of this order. So you could get or you could get right. So if they both swapped around. And you could also get if the first one stayed the same and the second one swapped around. And then you'd basically repeat this process for this one, right? So you would get kind of the same combination of these, and then you can swap those around as well. So you'd get here, right? So this is your order, and now you can swap these two around. And so what you could get there is this combination. So swapping the second one first, then swapping only the first one, oh sorry, this is the original, Then this is swapping the first one. Then let's do swapping the second one. And then swapping both. Now let's look at our answer options. So we have capital A, capital B. And so immediately this is the option we're looking at. Capital A, lowercase b, that works. Lowercase a and capital B, so that occurs actually here, so that also works. And then lowercase a, lowercase b, so this works. Then we look at capital A and lowercase b, so we have these two options here, followed by capitals, which works, followed by this, which works, and followed by this, which works. All right, then we have, again, both capitals, so we can look at this one. Then we have this, which works. We have both lowercase, which works, and one lowercase, one uppercase. This also works. Then we can look at the final option, lowercase a, capital B. So that's this option here. Then we have capital A, lowercase b, which doesn't match up with what we have here. Capital A, capital B, that does match up. And then this also does not match up. They've basically swapped these two around. And that would be the case if swapping could occur between these. However, it can only happen within these two blocks. And so that's why D is not possible. And so D is your correct answer. For this one, again, they already told you what recombination is, and so you didn't need any previous knowledge. The reasoning skills used were pattern recognition, interpreting figures, and the process of elimination, and those are the same bootcamp resources as the previous question. And so that brings us to the end of Unit 13. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more GAMSAT help. We really appreciate your feedback. We have our Instagram here at Thank Flip GAMSAT, as well as our podcast, Thank Flip GAMSAT Nurses Doing GAMSAT, if you want to hear more from us. All right, I'll see you in the next one.